Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Wow, that's what I like to hear. Well, first of all, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to this Shades of Blue Martin State Airport event here out in Middle River, Maryland. This is the first time that we've actually operated out here, and we wanted to establish a base of operation out here, and I'm going to introduce you to the CEO of the airport here in just a moment. But I want to take a minute and tell you who I am and why I came to do what I'm doing. You know, I'm so pleased to see all of you guys getting up really early in the morning. Many of you I know around 4 or 5 o'clock this morning to just get on a bus and travel all the way over here. But this could be the day of your life. This is the first day of the rest of your lives. And many of you I will probably see as airline pilots, as engineers, as flight attendants, as scientists. Back in the room, we have a rocket scientist over there. And so I want to take an opportunity to just kind of show you who some of the folks are. We have representatives from United Airlines. We have representatives from the United States Naval Academy. We have representatives from the Federal Aviation Administration. We have representatives from the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals. We have the former CEO of Ontario International Airport, Mr. Bruce Atlas. We're going to introduce him to you shortly. And we also have the airport manager here, Mr. Harold Fowler, who is so graciously, and I want to have a big round of applause for Martin State Airport because without them making it possible, this wouldn't have been here today. I'll just take a brief moment because I know it took a while for the folks coming in from the Eastern Shore to arrive. But now that you're all here, I know it took a long time to get here, but I'm going to briefly introduce myself as who I am and what I did for a living and why I'm doing this today for you. Well, first of all, I started out at the age of 6 years of age, grew up in Southern California, and I wanted to, every day, we lived out in the Palmdale, California area. And I would hear these loud sounds in the sky. And I would go out this loud sonic boom, boom. And I go outside and look up in the sky and I see this long, thin white cloud going across the heavens. And I looked up and I didn't know what that was. But NASA had started in 1958. I know this sort of like going back in ancient history books. But we grew up out there. I moved to California in 1957 at the age of 2 years of age. And the NASA program had just got started about a year after I moved to California. And when I would hear these loud booms, I didn't know that was folks like Captain Ed DeWitt, who became the first African American to be hand-selected by President John F. Kennedy to be the first black astronaut. He was out there at Edwards Air Force Base breaking the sound barrier. That loud boom that I heard in the sky was those guys were testing the latest military aircraft and equipment for all of the aerospace corporations. This is prior to the very first NASA astronauts launching into space. In 1961, NASA launched the first astronaut, American astronaut, into space. They started in 1958. They selected the Mercury 7 astronauts. And then the very first one to go up in space, and these are some names you guys might want to mention and remember. Alan Shepard. He was the first one to launch up in space in 1961. The second one was Gus Grissom, and the third one was Senator John Glenn from Ohio. Now, we had a grainy black and white television, and I would look in there, and when they first started these, we saw this first launch in the atmosphere. It was a parabolic launch. It launched it straight up and it came back down on a parachute. The first astronaut to go in space was a Russian astronaut by the name of Yuri Gagarin. And he was the first one to launch into space. But after he launched into space, we became the space race. And the reason I'm here to tell you about this is because opportunities for you guys. So I grew up wanting to be an astronaut when I first saw that very first launch. And my father would take us out to air shows, sort of like what you guys are doing here today. They would take us out to air shows. I see guys jumping out of airplanes. I see pilots flying. I didn't want to jump out of an airplane. I wanted to fly them. And so that's what my goal was. And so as I grew up, I had 9 brothers and sisters. And my brothers and sisters would love to teach me because they asked me, they said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an astronaut. And they said, you're not going to be an astronaut. You're going to be an astronaut. That's what they thought. I was nutty for wanting to fly up into space. But as I grew up, I got on the path in elementary, middle school, high school, and coming out of high school and college. All along, I wanted to be a pilot. And so when I came out of high school, I started studying how to fly. I had a pilot certificate by the time I was 18 years of age. And I want you to know, right now, today, I've been flying airplanes for over 51 years. Over 51 years. When I came out of junior college, I had a private pilot certificate, transferred over to school in Metropolitan State, Denver, and went to school there, got my 4-year degree, came out of there. I was fortunate enough to get picked up with United Airlines about a week before I marched in commencement. Not as a pilot, I was a professional pilot, but I got hired as a flight attendant with United Airlines. I actually started working in the back of the aircraft, and I worked back there for about 8.5 years before making that transition into the cockpit. After making that transition into the cockpit, I started out on Boeing 727s as an engineer. I went to the right seat as a first officer on the Boeing 727. Then I transitioned over to the McDonnell Douglas DC-10, where we were carrying 300-something people. And I would do 10, 11-day trips out across the Pacific on this big airplane that weighed about 400,000 pounds. And then after doing that for about 3 years, I transitioned over to the 747-400. This aircraft, just to give you an idea, it was like launching a ship into space. We carried 400 passengers. We would put 388,000 pounds of fuel on board, which is equivalent to 57,000 gallons of fuel. And we would load this airplane up, and then after we would load it up, we would push those throttles forward, go down the runway. We would lift off at 188 miles per hour, and then we would climb up to about 300 knots, and then accelerate, climb up to altitude, initially about 30,000 feet up in the air, carrying 400 people at over 500 miles an hour through the sky. And we would travel all the way to Sydney, Australia. 14.5 hours many times. Sometimes if the winds were strong enough, it'd be a 15-hour flight at almost 600 miles an hour through the sky for about 15 hours of flight time, all over water. And then we would land in Sydney, Australia. So I would do that, and I did that for about 22 years, 19 years on the 747. Then I left there, went to the 777. I flew the 777 right up here out of Washington Dulles Airport for about 5 years. And then from there, over to the 787 Dreamliner, where I retired after 42 years with United. They wasn't finished with me yet. I thought I was finished, and I was heading off into the sunset. The next thing I know, I came to a screeching halt like the Godfather. It came to a screeching halt, and they said, we need you to come back. So I ended up coming back, and I worked in our operations center in Denver for another 2.5 years. But during that whole entire time, for 26 years, I created this organization to expose young people like yourselves to the opportunities of having careers in aviation and aerospace. The reason being, it's a whole host of opportunity, whether it be a flight attendant, an aircraft mechanic, technician, a pilot, a scientist, an engineer. Between 2024, and I want you to remember these numbers, between 2024 and 2042, we're looking at a worldwide shortage of airline pilots, 890,000 pilots short. What does that mean for you? It means a great opportunity if you guys decide that you want to be a pilot. I understand everybody doesn't want to be a pilot, everybody can't be a pilot, but if you want to be an aircraft mechanic, you like using your hands, you can be an aircraft mechanic. If you want to be a technician and designer, you can be an engineer and designer. But I want to tell you this because here throughout the day, this is an opportunity for you guys to learn about some career paths that you may not have thought about at this point in time. Now, at this point in time, I'm going to turn the mic over to another gentleman. This gentleman runs the airport here, Mr. Harold Walker, and he's going to have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about what he does here at the airport.
Good morning, good afternoon. Where are we? Good morning. It's still morning time. How's everybody doing? All right, let's do better than that. Good morning. Good morning. All right, I know it's early. I appreciate it. Thank you. As they said, my name is Harold Fowler. I am from Baltimore, Maryland. I am the airport manager here. Are you guys able to hear me better? Is that good? I'm the airport manager here. I'm not going to go through my whole career. There's several people in here that I want to make sure throughout the day that you stop and speak with, okay? There are a few things we have set up for you. We've got flight simulators, we've got some robotics, but what's really important is you take the time to talk to some of these folks that are here, right? So we've got all of these airline pilots, captains that are in the uniform. Talk to them individually when you get a chance, hear their stories. What's really important, what Captain Daniels just talked about, is all the different facets in aviation, right? All the different things that you can do. So we know about our pilots. Malik, who's over in the corner there, Malik, raise your hand. He started out working ground support here at Martin. He went on to become an aircraft maintenance, certified aircraft maintenance professional, and now he's helping building rockets, right? So you'll hear from him later. We have Emily Martitius, who's floating around. She used to be a flight attendant. She's right behind you. So wave your hand again. She started out as a flight attendant in Brazil and is now a certified pilot. So she has a bunch of experience that you can work to. There is so much to do. When I started out at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Yes, there you go. To be a pilot, all right? I got my pilot's license. I got my private pilot's license. And then as I was training to go through all the certifications that Emily's working on now, I ran out of money, right? So while being a pilot is what I really, really wanted to do, it just wasn't something that I could continue, right? So I had a professor that made it very clear. He said, listen, I know you want to be a pilot. Those jobs come and go, right? There's some really cool things about it. There's some drawbacks about it. But the airport will always be there, right? And then he started talking about all the different facets about the airport itself. No matter where you go in the country, you'll always have a job because there's always an airport. And so I switched my concentration to airport management. So my degree is in airport management. So there's several things I've done throughout my career to get me back home here to Baltimore and in this position. And I would love to talk to you guys about it. Whoever's interested, pull me aside. We can have that conversation. But ultimately, it's gotten me here, right? So I'm back home at Martin, running this airport. Everything from making sure the grass still gets cut to building a new air traffic control tower, which we're going to start in about a month, okay? So any questions you may have, just pull me to the side. I'm happy to talk through all of that, all right? Any questions right now? You raised your hand. You didn't mean to raise your hand, but you raised your hand. You have a question? Yeah? No? No? You sure? All right. Anybody else? Any questions? Yes, sir. The question was.
Who asked that question? Stand up.
All right, so we got a question from one of our guys from the Eastern Shore. Are you from Salisbury? All right. The question is, what's the most expensive plane I've seen? So I have seen a lot of different airframes. I've worked at a lot of different airports that do a lot of different things. I've seen pretty much all of them. I've seen everything from like the private jet behind you, all the way to that one of Emily's favorite, the Antonov, which is huge, huge, huge. So we've seen those that are, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars. We've seen ones that are military that we don't even know the price tag on. But If you want to talk through some stories, and I can show you some pictures of some of those airplanes, we can do that afterwards, okay? Yes, sir.
What scholarships, different scholarships are available?
So one of the question was what scholarships are there that are available? One of the reasons I ended up at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore was because one, I wanted to fly, I wanted to go to an HBCU, and I wanted to get some money for playing tennis, believe it or not. So that was Tuskegee, Hampton, UMES, and Delaware State. I ended up at UMES. So I actually got a partial athletic scholarship to help. But all of these people that are here, the FAA, the OBAP, Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals, they all have things that can help you steer you to different scholarships, okay? Any other questions before I run away from you guys? Nothing? All right. Again, if there's anything you want, yes, sir. Say it again.
What's the cheapest plane you've sold?
What is the cheapest plane I've seen? So we're at what's called a general aviation airport. Okay, you guys are used to going to commercial airports with United and Delta and all of those folks. Here we have your private jets, and we have our recreational flyers, those small single engine planes. We also have planes that are called kit planes. Kit planes will get mailed to you and you can put it together yourself, believe it or not. So to your point, to your question, there are some that are really, really, really affordable, but you might have to put it together yourself, okay? I'll show you a list if you want to look at some prices of what planes cost, okay? All right. Any other questions? All right. Again, pull me to the side if you have any questions later on, all right? Thank you very much.